samurai.
Ghost of Tsushima is an upcoming PlayStation exclusive from Sucker Punch Studios, the creators of Infamous and Sly Cooper, actually. Stepping away from cartoon raccoons and modern-day superhero games, we've got a new, very serious-looking game about samurais. Hello, it's me, Jake Kulkowski, and with me, Gareth Evans. We've learned a lot. We've been on a journey of discipline and self-discovery, and we've also discovered a lot about Ghost of Tsushima, so we're going to tell you all we know about it, not just picking apart the trailer that we saw at E3. We've been doing some extra reading, so be sure to stick around and you'll probably learn some things here that you wouldn't have learned just from watching the gameplay. We first saw the game at Paris Games Week last year when Sony showed the cinematic trailer, and it kind of revealed a loose plot. We know that the game's set in 13th century Japan, when the Mongol Empire invaded the island of Tsushima and slaughtered the defending samurais, which happened in real life. And in this year's E3, we learned and saw a lot more. What did you make of the trailer? You liked it? Impressed?
Yeah, as with all these E3 type trailers, they're there to try and show off what the game will have to offer, and they do that really well. They show off the landscapes and the field with like all the wind blowing and stuff to start off with, and then it progresses through to more a combat scene where you can it shows off the combat a little bit, and then the stealth towards the end as well as he's climbing up the building and stuff. So it's a bit of a showcase, really. This is how they do the E3 things, and I think it was beautiful. It did a great job in showing off, because we had so many questions going in, like we didn't know anything. And
that's right, yeah.
And it kind of clarifies how the game is kind of gonna look, how it's gonna play, what exactly the setting is, and all in all, it was presentation-wise 10 out of 10 for me. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it couldn't have been better. There's a lot of Sony games that are coming out lately that are third-person action-adventure narrative games, and you just assumed it was probably going to be one of them. We've seen a lot of games like that lately in the past year. We've seen robot dinosaurs, androids that are more human than human, Norse gods, and now we've got this, which is a Japanese samurai feudal setting. We've seen quite a lot of that at E3, actually, but this game specifically is the one we've seen the most of, and there's a lot there that people will be keeping an eye on. They'll be asking questions. How is it going to be historically accurate? The devil's in the details with these sorts of games, I suppose. And we did learn from this new E3 gameplay that it is actually going to be taking place in an open world, which is something that you might not have known when you saw the first bit of gameplay. And like the classic E3 thing, everything you see, you can go there. That's something Nate Fox confirmed with Jeff Keighley in a
That's right. But conference. So how does that excite? Does that excite you? Or because we thought going in maybe that it might be a more narrative driven thing where you were forced to down certain a story kind of beats kind of thing. But this is a more open world where you can go around and find a story around every corner kind of thing. How does that feel for you? Is that kind of thing that you'd want from this sort of Japanese? Yeah,
this is definitely something I wanted. I didn't realize it was going to be like this. You'd assume, because they've cited Akira Kurosawa films, and if for those listening who aren't versed in old samurai black and white movies and that, he's like the king of the revenge story, and almost how westerns are. And I thought this was going to be a game about a disgraced samurai finding his way, being very personal revenge story. So therefore, kind of following a narrative path, like you go here to do this, and you go here to do this, and you go here to do this. But no, actually, like you're saying, it's a lot more open than you think, and they're kind of basing it on, it's almost like The Witcher. Now, I've got to be careful comparing this to The Witcher, but hear me out. The Witcher follows Geralt of Rivia, and he goes around different places problem solving. In this game, you play a Ronin, like a wandering samurai, and you're problem solving. You go into different biomes, something that they've mentioned, haven't they, guys? There's different biomes, so you've got mossy areas, dark areas, and within these biomes, there's different stories, different people, different arcs.
Different themes, yeah?
Yeah, kind of like how the Bloody Baron in The Witcher is. That's like one little vignette story in Velen or whatever. The fact that Ghost of Tsushima is going to be like that that's actually the biggest surprise for me, and it's something that we didn't actually see in the demo. This was behind the scenes sort of stuff, press conference stuff, and
that's it. Conversationally, I mean, they referred to like you said, the dark theme where there was dark trees and stuff like that, and the theme for that area was betrayal. Right? So that opens the question: what other themes are there? Friendship, all the other types of things, and so that is interesting in itself. How you'd be traveling this world and all the different biomes. You'll have different areas to explore in that, but there will be a varied, different gameplay, different story types, all within self-contained biomes, which is again exciting. And going back to the question of historical accuracy. Like Nate Fox is quoted as saying, this is a game inspired by history, but we're not doing a stone by stone recreation of it. This is an original bit of fiction. So that kind of, if anyone who is a history buff going back and thinking, I know exactly what happens in this, and then this is also, but it's not.
That's right, yeah. They've confirmed it's original, but at the same time, they want to be really respectful because in real life, Tsushima, like 2018, every year they commemorate the attack that happened. So it's still something that the nation mourns over and things like that. So they've been working with Sony Japan Studios in consultation to learn more about that as well. And also when it comes to combat, they've been speaking to a student of the blade, a samurai sword expert, to try and get tips on how that should work. Although, again, they've said we've used this and we've taken some advice, but at the end of the day, it's a video game, so we've got to try and make it fun as well.
Yeah.
So it's very clear that even though it's respectful of the original story, it is going to be its own story or stories, which is like what we were just saying a minute ago, different little stories. And that, again, is a huge surprise. And
going to the story, obviously you play the character of Jin, right?
Yeah.
And the story is, that they alluded to in this interview, that all your friends, all your samurai friends are dead, right?
Yeah.
And there's these Mongols that are here now, and you have to adapt. You have to adapt to this Mongol invasion, and then that's where your story picks up. So that's an interesting thing, right?
Yeah, it is, because so in real life, Tsushima was like the island between the mainland and Japan, and they had loads of samurais posted there in case of an attack. So you're playing like pretty much the last samurai, or one of the last samurais, and you wanted to follow a path of this, like Tom Cruise, and you basically have to adapt. It seems like a by any means necessary story. Like, here's a quote that was a bit for me. It says, according to Sucker Punch, Jin must pioneer deadly new fighting techniques, the way of the ghost, and wage an unconventional war for Japan. So unconventional there and new fighting techniques makes me think that it's not going to be like disciplined regular samurai stuff. He's going to have to be like a by any means necessary kind of guy.
Yeah, right? I mean, there was talk of, you saw it in the trailer as well, where Jin's using this grappling hook, right? And they said that's not usually what samurai would use, and that he's adapted and he's progressing. There's talks about the progression of the game and how the combat will progress as you're going along. You start off as like this expert swordsman or whatever, but you have to adapt by any means necessary, as you said there, using this grappling hook to maybe be a bit more stealthy about how you go about things. And this is one of the skills that Jin acquires going through the game.
Yeah.
And that opens up like, this is how the game will play. This is how the progression works in the gameplay as well. Not just the story, but also you as a character playing the game, how you progress and gain these new abilities.
That's right. We don't know much about like skill trees or anything like that, but we do know that you can play the traditional kind of samurai route if you want to, or you can go a bit more ninja-y, but they don't call it ninja-y, they call it the way of the ghost. So decision making seems to be pretty important to the player. Like, it's something that they've been pressing on a lot when they've been talking to people, and it's something that we did see in the demo. So in the demo, there's this like little hut thing, the dojo, I guess, and the player could approach it through the front door, through the wall, through the back door. But we see Jing use his grappling hook, like you said then, like there's a short shadow technique, I guess. He gets on the roof and then he stealth takedowns these people.
Yeah.
So the big question for a lot of people when it comes, because this is as simple as this, when it comes to a game about Japan and swords, people assume ninjas and stealth.
Yeah.
Is the whole game going to make you play stealth? What happens if you want to just go in there and smash stuff up? Well, it seems that they've got an answer for it.
Yeah, well, Chris Zimmerman says it's up to you as a player. I mean, this is the right quote. That kind is up to you as a player. There's a lot of player agency there. There are people who are going to approach it in different ways, and that has to be accommodated. So he's, if you want to go all action type of gameplay and take your sword out and chop everyone's heads off face to face, you can do that, but it's nice how they are accommodating. That's the word they use, right? Yeah. Accommodating. If you want to play it in different ways, then it's up to you the style that you take, which player choice is always a number one thing for me, and agency as well, making choices and feeling like you're having an impact on the game that you're playing. So I for one think that's a fantastic way to approach it.
Yeah, definitely, because a lot of the time when there's games like this where you're outnumbered by enemies, stealth can feel like a bit of a cop-out. I'm a big stealth fan, but a lot of people I know who don't like it say that they feel like that. They feel like they could take the enemies on, but the game is telling you can't. But in this case, you can adapt and use these unconventional ways to try and find ways of working around the situations you find yourself in. One thing that interested me when it came to the battles, well, first of all, minor point that we didn't see in the demo, but I've seen some discussion online and people wondering, the combat is the face buttons on the controller. So it's not R1 and R2 like Horizon or God of War or Souls games. It's square, for example. So I don't know if that's going to be of relevance to anybody, but there we go. You learn something every day. The next thing about the battles is that there seems to be different types. So we saw this. We just talked about the stealth thing a little bit, if you can call that a battle. We definitely saw mob battles towards the beginning of the demo. And towards the end, we saw something a little bit more ceremonial, a little bit more cinematic, and that was a duel. So what happened then was that they were, again, very respectful. This is a thing, isn't it? They drew their swords, they were talking to each other first, and they had this duel, which is supposed to be not just a one-off, it's something that you see in the game quite a lot. And I guess, I don't know if these are going to be instead of boss battles. They haven't mentioned that. There might actually still be boss battles. But these duels seem to be one-on-one situations where it's very tense. They say that they wanted there to be silence in between the attacks. Yeah. They want it to be tension, and I guess that's going to be where that really rises, because I don't know if you noticed, but nearly every single attack was a one-hit kill from what we saw in the mob fights, and this was a little bit more kind of like rock paper scissors. It's all about thinking, getting into that sort of psychology, and there's a lot of tension there. So we'll see a lot more of that. So I guess more esteemed warriors fighting gym will have that on, which is cool. So two different styles of gameplay. It's not all like Arkham City just fighting mobs. Does that interest you?
Yeah, I mean, there's what comes apparent from what we're saying as well, and the gameplay is that the tension in it, right? So there's that standoff between the mobs and you at the start, and the quote from Nate Fox is, "There's always a spectacular moment of two guys eyeing each other. Who's going to move first?" And then like the katana gets drawn, and then he slices them up just in one movement, and that's like spectacular, and it's really tense, and it's quite. It's that intensity you're feeling, and if the gameplay is actually like that, because that was one of the questions from watching the demo, right? Is this actually gameplay, or is this like pre-rendered or whatever? But apparently that is like one of the things, like authentic kind of samurai things where they wanted to get across that feeling of like tension. And I think it's all around great, the fact that they are approaching this setting as well, because there's not many games like in the ninja setting back in the 13th century, because there's a load of open world games. There's not very many that do the ninja thing, and I think it's fantastic what they're doing. Just to kind of sum up now, there's loads of things we can talk about, but we are beyond the scope of this video, and we just don't have the time. They talk about like the motion, all the combat's motion captured, dynamic weather, and dynamically simulated clouds, and the world itself. There's like 30,000 leaves at one point in one of the scenes, and that is just beautiful in itself. And that's like they're talking about some technical achievements, or the technical side of the game, that everything that goes into the game outside of what we've discussed here, which is the gameplay and the story and stuff. So it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it really does. And here's the thing, it's a classic of when it rains it pours, and you said then we don't have many sort of Eastern setting games, and then at E3 we got Neo 2, Shadows Die Twice in this. And based on the information that I learned when we were researching this, and the information that we've just given you, this has shuffled that pack, and now Ghost of Tsushima is the top. It's my most anticipated out of the 3 ninja games that we recently saw. So hopefully this information would also have given you some insight, and maybe got you excited about it in a way you didn't think you would. So thanks, Gus, for that information.
You're welcome.
And cheers for joining me. That's Ghost of Tsushima from Sucker Punch Games. Coming soon-ish, I think, for the PS4. There's actually no release date yet, but it's definitely this gen, and the developers have been working on it for some time, so who knows. Thanks very, very much for watching. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here. There's some more content on the screen right now. You might want to check some of that out. And there's also a link to our Patreon if you want to support the channel. See you next time.